Hi. We're going to go ahead and start off automatically right now in the next verse in this notebook. And the next verse is Isaiah 48, 9 through 11. Right? So if you do have your Bible out, that would be great to read along and to look at these verses as well so that you can get practice to reading the Word of God. All right? Now, Isaiah 48, 9 through 11 says, "For my name's sake will I defer mine anger, and for my praise will I refrain for thee, that I cut thee not off. Behold, I have refined thee, but not with silver. I have chosen thee in the furnace of affliction." Verse 11, "For mine own sake, for mine own sake will I do it. For how should my name be polluted? And I will not give my glory unto another." Today's set of scriptures is a huge encouragement. I know many times growing up, when I was struggling with all these things that I was struggling with, there were a lot of times whenever I would tell God, you know what, God, I don't deserve your forgiveness, so I'm not even going to ask for your forgiveness because I'm tired of hurting you. I'm tired of messing up. I'm asking you to, I need forgiveness for something that I asked for forgiveness yesterday. I just messed up again. And sometimes it would be 5 minutes ago. I'd have to ask for forgiveness again for something that I was just done asking him for forgiveness for 5 minutes ago. And so, the enemy would make me feel like, and not even just the enemy, my own thoughts, always making me feel like, I needed to, live right for a certain amount of time before I can even go to God to ask him for forgiveness. And finally, God got through my thick head, and he reminded me, he showed me this verse, and he reminded me that, you know what? My forgiving you, Michael, has nothing to do with what you have done, and everything to do with what my son Jesus has done. I'm not forgiving you because you're good, or because you deserve it, or because, you said these prayers or whatever, you did whatever. I'm forgiving you because of Jesus, because he went to the cross so that I could forgive you. And I sent him there so that I could have a relationship with you. And that just cut off the lies of the enemy right there. Because anytime that the enemy will come to me and say, well, you don't deserve forgiveness, or you think God's going to help you with this? Come on, you're not worth his time. I look back and I'm like, you know what? He forgives me and he helps me, not because of something that I do, not because of how, I'm good or anything like that, but because he chose to get into a relationship with me through his son Jesus. And because of that, he's not going to abandon me. Talks about how he's not going to, he's going to do these things for his own sake. All right? We have all heard the phrase, and it's a correct phrase, that Christianity is not a religion. It's a relationship. And so we have to realize that. We Christians, are married to God. That's something that I talk about a whole lot, is how our relationship with God is just like marriage. And he refers to it like that in so many times throughout his word. And especially in Ephesians chapter 5. He goes on down the list saying, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. Wives, submit yourselves to your husbands as the church is supposed to submit to Christ. And, it just goes down the list. That shows, and in verse 32, I believe it says that, this is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ and the church. Which means that whole chapter, even though he's talking about husbands and wives and everything and giving them advice and telling them what they needed to do, he was actually talking about Christ and the church. And how we are supposed to be with Christ, submitting to Christ, just like we expect, just like husbands expect wives to submit to them. And reminding us that, Christ loves us just like you husbands are supposed to love your wives, even to the point of giving yourselves up for them. Husbands are supposed to act just like Jesus to their wives. And, I've mentioned this, in the past, and I'll try to mention it really fast again, that, what? Just like there's false Christs out there right now, antichrists and everything in the world, there are false husbands out there. People who act like, who say they're married to wives and everything, but then they don't take care of their wives the way that Christ is supposed to, the way that they're actually supposed to. And just like there's false wives out there, people who say that they're Christians and yet they don't submit to Christ. That's how God works. He gives us the example of marriage to help us along here, to help us to understand how He wants a relationship with us. But moving on, it talks about, this verse reminds me of the time when the children of Israel in the wilderness, they were constantly complaining to God, and they were constantly, just bickering about God and everything, and God got upset with them. He pulls aside and goes to Moses and says, Moses, leave me alone right now. I'm going to pour my wrath on these people. You know what? They aggravate the living daylights out of me. I'm just going to destroy them all. And I'm going to make you a great nation. I'm going to make your children inherit the land that I promised these other people. Because, I know that you're my friend, Moses. But these people are aggravating. And what did Moses say? This is in Exodus 32, 9 through 14, if you want to look it up. Moses goes ahead and he says, no, God, don't do that. All right? Because if you go ahead and cut these people off, you're going to be the laughingstock of the world. That's going to ruin your reputation. The Egyptians are going to say, oh, well, hey, God must not be powerful enough. He brought them out of Egypt and then He destroyed them because He couldn't deliver them. He couldn't change them. He couldn't give them into the land and the promises that He said He would. So He just destroyed them. And because of that, God went ahead and repented of that, and He did not destroy Israel. And that's what I see right here as well, where it talks about how for His sake He's going to forgive us, and not just that, He's going to help us to change. All right? And it's linked to change and not just forgiveness, because in verse 10 it says, behold, I have refined thee. Refining means to basically, okay, you know what a refiner's fire is? Right. That is, like a blacksmith and everything like that, when he's purifying metal and everything like that. How does he do it? He does it by putting metal and heating it up extremely hot to where it melts it down. And then he continues to pour on that heat, continues to heat it up until the impurities float to the surface. And once the impurities are there, he can go ahead and scoop it out and get rid of it altogether. Notice that it says He's refined us, but not with silver. I have chosen thee in the furnace of affliction. All right? That's how we're refined. Troubles and problems and affliction that comes our way. But He promises that He's going to refine us. How in the world does affliction refine us? Because when the heat comes into our lives and everything like that, many times a lot of things that we find that we have in our hearts rises to the surface. If we have a problem with anger, with pride, or anything, it's going to rise to the surface and it's going to rear its ugly head. And that's whenever God can go ahead and say, all right, you see this? Let me take it away from you now. Now that I've exposed this in your life, let me take it away so that you can be purified and refined. That's all He wants from us, is for our own sake. He wants us to be refined and purified and, to stop poisoning our lives with sin, because sin is poison. Romans 6:23 says the wages of sin is death. And every time that we sin, we're basically poisoning ourselves. I've said that plenty of times in the past. And God doesn't want us to hurt ourselves constantly by sinning like that. So these set of verses is a huge promise saying that God is telling us that I don't care what you've done. I don't care, whether it's good or bad. I'm going to help you. I'm going to forgive you, and I'm going to refine you. I'm going to help you get past all these problems that you have, not because of what you have done, not because you deserve it or anything, or not even because you don't deserve it or anything like that, but for my own sake. And why does he do that? Why is it for his own sake? Because you know what? We're entered into a relationship with him. And just like those of you who are married, just like the actions of your husbands or wives affects you, our actions affects God. If for no other reason than his reputation. When we mess up, it kind of messes up God's reputation among the world. So, of course, God's going to tell us, look, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help change you. I'm going to work on you. I'm going to help you to grow closer to me so that we can be in that great relationship, and so that, people the world over will realize, you know what? God is able to change this person. God is able to change me as well, because they changed this person. So if ever the enemy tells you, you know what? This addiction of mine, this problem of mine, this sin is too big, and it's too much of a hassle. God, it's too much of a hassle for God to try to change me. God says otherwise. He says he's going to change us. He's going to work on us. He's going to forgive us for his sake. Because he has entered into a relationship with us. And he loves us enough. And he knows that what we do, because he's entered into this relationship with us, it affects him. Alright? And he knew that from the start. It's not like, oh no, now that I'm in a relationship with these people, they're going to affect me when they mess up. No, he knew that from the start. This is basically, he's entered into this covenant with us, basically tying us to him and everything, so that he basically can tell us, you know what? We're going to work together here. Alright? And you need to realize that we're entered into this covenant relationship. Covenants wind up being broken, but only if one of them refuses to uphold the deal. And, we're not going to get into that and everything like that, because instead we're going to focus on how God promises us that he's going to forgive us and he's going to work on us for his sake. So don't ever believe the lie, whether it comes from people, whether it comes from your own thoughts, whether it comes from the devil himself whispering these things into your head. Do not believe the lie that you cannot be changed or that you cannot be forgiven, because God promises he's going to do it for his sake. Alright? So don't ever believe that lie. It's a lie from the pit of hell. Okay? So cast down the lie with the truth. We're going to go ahead and stop from there to try to keep these studies short, as short as possible. And I'm going to I'll try to make these as daily as I was doing them with typing up, but, we're going to end it for there. And I just want y'all to leave a comment below, letting me know what you think of it, and if you have any questions whatsoever about anything that was said in this, or any tips, anything at all, just let me know, Just comment, or even email me if you have my email address, or send me a message in any way possible. Alright, so just we'll keep in touch. Okay? And I shall see you next time that I do these, and hopefully it's soon. Alright. God bless y'all, and I know he blesses you, and I just pray that you see his blessings every day. And I love y'all, and with brotherly love, and I'm keeping y'all in my prayers. Alright? Y'all have an excellent day today. Alright? And be good. Alright, bye.